Hello and welcome to SEO Rankings Do Follow podcast. Here we hold regular talks with SEO and digital marketing experts to discuss hot SEO topics and share actionable insights with the SEO community. So subscribe to stay on top of everything going on in SEO. Today, we're going to dive deep into international SEO. International SEO performance is critical for businesses looking to expand their reach beyond their home market. However, achieving success requires more than just translating your website and targeting a global audience. Businesses need to ensure their website is optimized for international search engines. This is where international SEO comes in, which is the process of optimizing website to rank higher in search results in different countries and languages, but I'm not going to get into any details because we have a specific guest for this. So how do we navigate the complexities of international SEO? How can we cater to diverse search engines and adjust for distinct user behaviors across different countries? What strategies should we employ to reach a global audience effectively? If you're seeking answers to these and other questions, you've come to the right place. Today, I am joined by Nitin Manchanda, who is a seasoned SEO expert and digital growth professional with a decade's worth of experience under his belt. He's the brains behind Botpresso, his own Berlin-based consulting firm, where he dishes out top-tier SEO expertise to a variety of industries. On top of running a Botpresso since 2021, Nitin also took the role of Chief Growth Officer at Cuddly Nest. Before all this, Nitin held high-impact roles at big-name companies like Omayo, Trivago, Flipkart. His know-how spans the whole 9 yards of SEO, from nitty-gritty of the technical details to the art of mobile optimization. It is a pleasure to have you with us, Nitin. Thank you for taking the time to be here with us. Before we start, I would love to have a bit more from you about how you got to where you are. What is your story? How you got into SEO? So please let me and the audience know a bit more about yourself.
Sure. Thank you so much, Andrew, for having me today. I'm really excited, about this discussion with you on my favorite topic, which is international SEO. Yeah. So I started my professional journey back in 2012 as a software engineer, worked in India for roughly 4 to 5 years. And there I was taking care of software engineering as well as SEO for the startups I was working for. And then international SEO was a thing which was like a shining stone that time. It still is. And I was looking for brands where I can, experiment international SEO and learn in the process. So then I got the offer letter from this offer to join the company called Trivago as their product manager for SEO. I moved to Germany, and that's how my journey in international SEO began. Yeah, since then I've been working with a lot of brands on international SEO, helping them grow internationally. And yes, that's my experience with international SEO.
Great. So you're just the man to help us figure this whole thing out. So how is international SEO different from the normal traditional SEO that most of us are used to doing?
Well, I think the biggest difference when we talk about international SEO is it focuses on multiple countries and languages. Whereas if you talk about just SEO, maybe you're focusing on one language. The angle from different geographies doesn't come in, right? Also, when you talk about international SEO, we are considering language variations, cultural differences, local search engines as well, right? For example, if you go to Japan, 22% share right now is with Yahoo, right? And Baidu is the leading search engine in China. So everything around this is part of international SEO, right? And then there are some international targeting techniques as well. So that everything, comes in international SEO, which is not there in normal SEO.
Got it. Well, what about some common misconceptions people have about international SEO? Maybe they're like, just don't want to start going international because of some issues that they have in mind, but like myths, SEO myths, or maybe you could address this issue as well.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So I think one of the biggest one is around content, right? So I've spoken with a lot of people and they believe that, hey, if you translate your website's language into some other language, that's enough, but that's not. International SEO is not just about translation of content, it's also about experience, right? So if you believe that, just translating your website would work in your favor from international SEO perspective or international growth perspective, no, you're wrong there, right? And then another one is, I think there is no one size fits all solution, right? You can't just say that, hey, this strategy worked for you in Germany. It would work for you in Italy as well. It would work for you in Spain as well. So I think that doesn't exist. You need to look at how your users in that particular geography are searching for what you're selling, right? And then, plan your strategy, tailor your strategy accordingly, right? So there is no one size fits all solution. And also, I think you need to also understand a lot about what are the different, ways to search for a particular thing. Or I'll give you an example. I think with the help of example, it would be easier, right? If you talk about football, right? It is a game which is also known as soccer in the US, but there is a sport which is called football in the US. So when they search for football, they're looking for something else than if someone sitting here in Germany is searching for football. So now if you go to, for example, Nike's landing page about men's football shoes, right? The page for the UK would say men's football shoes. And if you go to the US, they say men's soccer boots, because that's what they call it. And similarly, if you talk about buses, right? Here in Germany or even in India, right, where I come from, we call the transport medium, right, buses, like trains versus buses. Right. And if you go to the UK, right, people search for coaches there, not buses, right? So when I was at Omeo, I could, see the difference, like, hey, why there are more searches for coaches, people who are landing on our buses pages. And when we changed that to coaches, right, we were able to map users' intent or users' search query with our landing pages better, and that also gave us some boost. So understanding that local style of searching and what exactly they're looking for is very important. So yeah, I think these are some misconceptions people have about using content. And yeah, sometimes I also hear that we use machines to translate the content. It's not working. It should work ideally, right? But no, they're machines, right? You also need to understand what your users are searching for. So understanding user is very important.
Thank you. Yeah, this clears up a lot of things. So when you say like research, find out how people are finding your business by, so what is like not the red flag, but what is the telltale sign that you should expand? So for example, I'm doing research and I see in a neighboring country, people are buying my stuff, although I'm not even attempting to sell to them. What do brands need to look out for as a clear sign that they need to start expanding somewhere else internationally?
Yeah. Well, I think it should not come from the gut feeling all the time, right? Which I've seen like some brands doing lately I was working with, and they were like, hey, we felt like, hey, if you're in Germany, right, we have a lot of German speakers and Switzerland as well, so we should expand. It doesn't work like that, to be honest, right? So it requires proper, detailed, market research to assess the demand of the products and services, whatever you're selling, right? And then only you can make this decision. So for example, if you talk about the factors, right, so you would probably look at market size, you look at competition, you look at cultural fit. Maybe there's something that you're selling in Germany, which sells pretty good here, but in Switzerland, people don't buy that. You would also look at consumer behavior. You will look at potential return on investment, because yeah, if you're expansion is not easy, right? It's not cheap. It's really, really expensive sometimes. So you would also want to see, okay, how does my market size look? And do we have people who would buy that? So you would look at all those parameters, and then you will calculate your potential ROI. And if you think your ROI goes well with the spendings that you are having right now, I think it is a wise decision. And if that's not the case, maybe you can think about running some MVP to prove the value of it, and then think about expansion.
In your experience, I wanted to ask, like, do you suggest countries expand to more less competitive markets first, just to sort of get more resources and so on, just to be able to scale up to more complex markets with a lot of competition? So is there like a pro tip that you can give out in terms of like, what is the first place to look at? Well, just like without even doing research, like, or just like what is the process of like in terms of figuring out where to expand your business to?
Well, I think in general, whenever I work on SEO, right? So my that's like what I prefer, that going and, killing the less competitive market first, so that you can see the needle moving. That is always encouraging, and it always, helps you get the buy-in from the client and the stakeholders, right? Similar approach here as well. So if you have like options going with more competitive market versus less competitive in comparison, I would go with less competitive. Prove the value of it. Maybe it's smaller investment, smaller returns, but yes, it at least proves the direction you're taking. Also, when you're talking about less investment and going with less competitive market, you will also have your learnings during the process. And these are the learnings I'm talking about, where you maybe failed while expanding, right? So you will take all those learnings while expanding in bigger markets where there's more competition, where you have more investment to make. So yeah, it's always better to go with less competitive first, from ROI perspective, from learning perspective, and then you can, expand further.
Great. Just what I was hoping to hear. Okay, so we've moved on from establishing that we need to expand somewhere else. We've decided like, okay, we need to go to this specific neighboring country, start off with less competitive. Okay, so the next step is probably like getting my website ready, getting the structure set up. What does that entail for international SEO in terms of like starting with my website, like the URLs for all the different web pages that I have. What are the different possible web structures for international SEO? What is the setup? And if you have like a favorite personal of yours, we would love to hear more about it as well.
Definitely. Yeah. So I think there are three more common structures. So one is country code top level domain. So for example, trivago.de. So here .de denotes that this particular domain is primarily focusing on Germany. And then we have, for example, another one, trivago.in, where IN denotes India, right? So this is CCTLD, which is country code top level domain, right? That structure. Then we have subdomains. So you might have seen some projects, some domains, which is, for example, de.omeo.com. So here they do not have omeo.de. So I know the reason because I've worked there, right? But they have de.omeo.com, right? So they have a subdomain which is primarily built for everything Germany, right? So that's subdomain structure. You might have also seen some cases where you have a separate subdomain for blog. So blog.abc.com. You might have also seen a separate subdomain for app. So it's very common in SaaS world, app.xyz.com. So that's subdomain structure. And then the third one, which is also my favorite, that's subdirectory one, where you have abc.com/de for Germany, /in for India, right? You can also use combination of language and the country, right? So for example, it can be abc.com/en-in, which is for all the English speakers in India. Of course, you can change it if you want, but I'm using the ISO codes here. So this is how the third structure looks. And there is another structure, which is not part of these three. That's called like kind of hybrid structure, where you have, some of your domains are in subdomain, some are using CCTLD, and maybe you also have some in subdirectory. So yeah, this is kind of messy structure to handle your international web structure. But yeah, this hybrid structure is also very common these days. Again, there are some problems to fix that. Basically, we use different patches and then we end up with this. But ideally, every brand wants they have a consistent structure. So these are the three structures we have. And my favorite one, which you asked in the question, that's definitely subdirectory structure. And I think I have like clear reasons as well, because you only have one brand, right? For example, booking.com, they are on this subdirectory structure. So they only have one brand, right? You go to India, you go to the UK, you go to the US, you go to Germany, France, anywhere, you ask them, what is your hotel booking website, preferred one? They would say booking.com. No confusion. So just one brand, your brand team will be very happy. Wherever they're going, whatever amount they're spending on branding, it is basically getting you mentions and links on your domain, which is booking.com, right? So every country gets benefited because of that. So that's, I think, the biggest reason why I love one domain, right? No confusion. And also, I think personally, so it's a very tiny one, but you do not need to buy a lot of CCTLDs, right? A lot of domains. You just need to focus on one domain. So you don't have to worry about, okay, my domain is expiring. I'm expanding in a new country. Do I have that domain? Maybe not. For example, there's this brand called Home2Go. It's a massive brand. I love that brand. Their SEO team and SEO strategy is solid. However, if you look at their domains, they have CCTLD structure. So for Germany, they have home2go.de. For France, they have home2go.fr. But the day they decided that, hey, we want to go to Canada as well, they could not get home2go.ca. So what they have for that is home-to-go.ca. Because of the same reason, because they couldn't get that particular CCTLD. So they had to go with this kind of inconsistent solution. So that's a disadvantage we have with CCTLD, which is, not a problem when you're talking about just one domain, because you bought the domain and you sort it for life. And then I think it also becomes pretty easy to track everything, because now you have everything under your one Google Analytics or Google Search Console property, because it's one domain, so you can track everything there. And if you still want to have like separate properties, for example, let's say you want to have a separate one for /de, you can of course do that in Google Search Console. And in Google Analytics as well, you can create a separate view for that. That's easy. Yeah, but if you want to take a look at overall data, what your domain is getting internationally, that is also possible without any extra work from analytics configuration perspective. So yeah, these are some reasons why I love directories, subdirectory structure over the other structures which are there.
Yeah, this is great. And I wanted to ask, like, because you have all these different options, and obviously for the user, it's at best to have like something that just sticks in your mind, like booking.com, like you said. But what about search engines? What are they, is there something that they prefer to see one format over the other? It just helps them understand your site better. Could you speak on this, please?
Yeah, well, when I started international SEO, I heard, if you have CCTLD, for example, Amazon.de, then search engine bots will understand that you have .de domain that is primarily for German speakers. So they would give you some advantage. But to be honest, when I did like detailed research on this, I couldn't find anything like that. And now, for example, booking.com, right? It's one domain and they're following subdirectory structure. You search for any hotel, they would be ranking first, even above the hotels, on website. So that proves my case that, hey, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, and because, well, you also have some other parameters that you need to optimize. That is all international SEO about. So you have Hreflang tags, you have language tags, you have many other parameters which you can pass to convince Google or to help Google understand what language and what geography you are focusing with a given landing page. So that definitely helps you there.
And also speaking about these different web structures, are there any particular industries that benefit from one structure over the other? Like, for example, like booking.com, obviously this is a lot of travel brands have a very, very specific naming. So obviously they made it their choice over there. But what about other industries? Can you talk about, do you have any specific examples that give businesses in a specific industry get more results or better results performance from search by using a specific web structure?
Well, honestly speaking, I can think of a case where, subdirectory structure would not be able to solve a problem that your CCTLD or for that matter, subdomain would be able to solve. However, there is a case where I think, you can also go with CCTLD or subdomain, which is, let's say you have different teams. For France, you have different team altogether, right? Different engineering team, and everything is handled separately. You don't want to use the same domain, right? You have a separate engineering team. You want to keep everything isolated. So in that case, you can probably think about going with CCTLD and subdomain, because yeah, if you're talking about one domain, maybe there's something which has taken the whole website down, then you won't say to the team you're not even working with that, hey, the whole website is down and whatever I did is now wasted because of you. So if you want to stop that, if you want to keep everything isolated and let people do whatever they want on their own domains, right, then I think this is a structure you would go for. But yeah, honestly, industry specific cases where subdirectory would be restricted, not able to do the job, which probably can be done with CCTLD or subdomain better, I can't think of any.
Well, this is probably good news. That means that people will not be limited to anything regardless of the structure they choose. Yeah, obviously.
Definitely.
You explained the different drawbacks and positive points of doing this, but yeah, this is good news for our listeners. Let's talk about languages a bit more. So you can't just translate the site, right? Can we talk about what actually entails localizing the site versus translating it?
Yes, I think it's a big topic, right? Localizing your web experience is not just content translation. It's much more than that. It's about cultural adaptation. It's about localizing content. It's about understanding local search behavior, which might be different in different geographies, right? And then also providing local, relevant local services or products is also very crucial. I'll give you examples. So we spoke about this football shoes example, right? That's very relevant, which is my favorite example as well. And then another one is, I live in Germany, and here we have a special alphabet, a character for double S. It's called Estet. And if you go to Switzerland, they have a lot of German speakers, right? But they use double S. They don't use this special alphabet. We need to understand what people are used to, seeing. So if you are creating a page where your title says something with double S, right? It has the same meaning, but people in Switzerland are not used to seeing that. So you would want to, give it a more localized feel so that when they come on that landing page, they see double S instead of, this special symbol, right? They would feel like, okay, this is the space I belong to. So you need to think about that. And then I think if you talk about e-commerce, right, and you are maybe sitting in a country where, let's say, Apple Pay doesn't work for some reason, and now you're saying, hey, my e-commerce is sorted, and I accept payment through Apple Pay only. That means you are just cutting that country because they are not able to use that. They won't be able to, make any transactions. So you need to think about what, local payment systems they use, how they search, what they look for when they're searching, right? So everything around that. So understanding the user behavior and understanding what they're looking for, and then, building your website according to that so that they feel like, okay, this web space belongs to us. I think you have to give that feeling to users. And also, I think if you go to, for example, let's say it's time of FIFA World Cup, for example, and you have a website in Spain or Germany, people are crazy about football. So you would probably want, okay, well, at this time, probably everyone is, that in that mode of football. So you need to bring those elements on your website. Similarly, in India, right, cricket is big thing there. So everyone is, you don't ask like, what do you do in cricket? You don't ask whether you play cricket or not. You just ask, what do you do in cricket, right? It's that kind of craze there. So there also, when you have website, it's cricket season going up. Maybe there's a World Cup or something, right? So you can give that feel to people when they're landing. They're like, hey, wow, I was just talking about this 5 minutes back, and I see that here. This website is awesome. So that helps with conversion. That gives you the space where user feels that this space belongs to me. I want to convert, right? So I think that's something that I would highly recommend when you think about localized content more than just translation.
And also probably like you can promote like Christmas events in the Muslim countries or stuff like that, right? So take into account everything that is going on for that specific region, what is getting them excited. We also work with this, and we always take into account, we try to create different messages even for Australia, for the UK, for the US and Canada as well. Because once it was like it was summer for us, and we were talking about getting our margaritas on or something like that, and somebody from Australia said like, "Oh my God, I'm getting ready for winter. Why are you addressing us like this?" And we said, "Okay, so we need to break this audience down into different groups and not just generalize them as an English speaking audience." It doesn't convert that well if you're just generalizing it.
No, absolutely. I think when I was in India, right, I was living in Delhi. I was speaking with someone from the US, and the guy mentioned that, hey, I asked like, how's your day so far? The guy was like, I'm really happy. It's sun out here, like 30 degrees centigrade. We're really happy. Everyone is happy because of, the weather. Now I feel that. But that time I was like, why is he talking about sun? It's 47 degrees here. I'm done with like, I have enough vitamin D and everything that comes with that, right? So I was like, come on, why is he talking about sun? But now I could feel that when, you see like gray sky 4 or maybe even more, 5 months, 6 months, every year. Now, when you see sun, you're like happy. That is basically your mood controller.
Yeah, for sure. One of the conversation starters when I lived in Holland for a couple of years, and it was just like, whenever there's sun, leave work or whatever you can do, just go work on the beach, wherever you do, because it's like 5 days a year, basically, you can enjoy this like 30, 31 degrees plus.
Yeah.
So comes very rarely. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense to start weather to those people. All right. So let's talk about IPs and like redirection. So what is your take basically on redirection, on IP-based redirections? Do you recommend it? And maybe are there any alternatives to IP-based redirections that brands need to consider?
IP-based redirect for the listeners who do not know how it works, right? I'll try to explain that first, right? So it's like when you're requesting a website, they're catching your IP address to understand where you're located. And if you're sitting, let's say in Germany, they will redirect you to the German version of the website. If you're sitting in France, based on your IP address, they will redirect you to the French version of their website. And I hate it, right? There are multiple reasons like, why I hate it. But yeah, I totally hate it because this is a big problem. So for example, I'm sitting here in Germany. I know I'm looking for a website, which is abc.com. And now if you're redirecting me to abc.de, which is in German, the whole experience is in the local language, but I don't speak that language yet. So I'm like, hey, I didn't want to be here. I want to go back to abc.com. But then you are looking at my IP address, again, redirecting me to .de. I don't want that. So that is for me an annoying experience, and I'll try that once, or maybe if it does that again as well, I would say chuck it. I'll just go to another website. It can be really bad. Also, if you talk about search engine bots, right? Let's talk only about Google. And Google comes from an American IP address like 99% of the times, or if not 99, maybe 95 or 90. But when they come from an American IP, try to access your website, and even if they're trying to access your German website, you're saying, hey, we see you're coming from the US, we have this website for you. That means they would not be able to see your German website. And to fix that, you will take their IP addresses, or you will take Googlebot user agent string, or you will do some DNS reverse lookup, right, to identify whether the request is really coming from Google, and then you'll try to whitelist it. But the problem is, here you're whitelisting Googlebot. What about Bing? What about Yahoo? What about DuckDuckGo? What about many other search engines which are used by people sitting in the US, right? You might miss that. Or maybe even if they have some IP addresses, and if for some reason they are making some changes there, you'll miss out on that. And that can be really costly, because now search engines are not even able to find your German website. They won't be able to, if they're not able to discover those URLs, that part of the website, they won't be able to index them. And that means you are losing out on a massive opportunity. So for this reason, I hate IP-based redirects. I'm sorry. Did I answer your question, or you had?
Yeah. I'm on board, totally on board with what you're saying, because it just makes perfect sense. Like, I wouldn't want to lose all of the work that has been done to localize the website just because search engines can't find it, or just they can't. They just get redirected automatically to something that they already know about. So it's an excellent point, and I can't even think of why people would still continue to use it.
And we haven't even spoken about people who are using VPN, right? I'm sitting here in Germany. Let's say I'm using French VPN, right? Or VPN with French IP address. Now I want to access abc.de, right? But it says, hey, we see you're sitting in France. They will redirect me to French website. But that's not what I want. And then anyway, for this IP detection, the companies are dependent on third-party solutions. So if you're not using a solution which is reliable enough, you can also lose on that. Maybe you're sitting in Germany, right? And your third-party provider says, hey, this IP belongs to Italy, and you're giving me Italian version of a website. No, that's not what I want, right? So reliability on this third-party IP detectors, and also, kind of canceling the effect of VPN, that's another challenge that you have.
Continuing the story about a discussion about technical stuff, let's talk about Hreflang tags. Just in case people don't know, it would be great if you could start off by giving a brief explanation of what they are. Is there any other way to inform search engine bots about alternate pages other than using the Hreflang tag? We'll continue from there. So just let's talk about even more technical stuff, the one that really matters for international SEO, the Hreflang tag.
Definitely. So I'll start with a quick definition, right? So Hreflang tags are HTML tags which are used to indicate the language and geography which is targeted by the web pages, right? So if you have a landing page which is meant for German speakers in Germany, so you would say, hey, this is the URL, and you will just put two tags which are ISO codes for the language and the country. So in this case, it will be DE-DE. First D is for the language, and second is for the country. And if you are, let's say, targeting English speakers in the US, you would say EN-US. And then if you have a separate page for English speakers in Australia, you would say EN-AU, right? So this is how you basically implement Hreflang tags, which are HTML tags to help search engine bots understand what language and country this page should be mapped with. The purpose of Hreflang tags is to help search engine bots understand how these pages should be mapped, with what language, with what geography. And there are definitely other ways as well to tell search engines about the country and the geography these pages belong to. And you can use, for example, XML sitemap for that. So if you go on Google and search for multilingual XML sitemaps guidelines, you land on Google's official page, and there they talk about how you can use this XML sitemaps for multiple languages and geographies. And then you can also use HTTP headers to pass on this information. That's another way to implement that. Yeah, these are, I think, primarily three ways I'm aware of how you can connect pages from different geographies and for different target audience. using hreflang tags.
Are they all as effective, equally effective, or is the hreflang tag like the go-to option Google asks everybody to sort of comply with?
Yeah, they're all effective, but I personally prefer using hreflang HTML tags, because then, like, my belief is that when Google is on one particular page, we are sending all those signals there itself. If we talk about XML sitemap, we have those parameters, but available somewhere else, right? So I want to keep everything at one place so that there is no confusion. And when Google lands on a page, they're able to see the alternate versions there itself without any extra effort. And it also makes it easy from a debugging perspective as well for the SEO team, right? So if I'm debugging a website, I'm on a page, I click on my Chrome extension, which tells me all the alternate versions, I can see it there itself. Now, if this was not implemented this way, I had to basically open this page and then go to my XML sitemap, search for this URL and see what the alternate tags are. And then for those pages as well, because in hreflang tags, you also need to have reciprocal links. So if your page A says that, hey, my alternate page is page B, page B should also say that, hey, I have an alternate page which is page A for this language and country. If that is not established, this reciprocal relation, then your hreflang tags are not valid. So now debugging becomes very difficult if you do not have hreflang tags implemented in HTML, sorry.
Got it. Let's talk about, continue talking about the hreflang tags. And can you perhaps give us an example of like the best practices of using it like properly, the best way? Because you already said like the way to use it is to indicate the language, then the country. And also talk about not only the best practices, but something that goes terribly wrong when people try to implement hreflang tags.
Yeah, I think the very first one is the same, that, you need to use ISO codes for that. Use the right ISO codes, right? So you can't just mess up with that. And if you are going with English in Australia, it is EN-AU. If you're going for English speakers in the UK, it is EN-GB, because GB is the ISO code for Great Britain and it's not UK. I've seen brands making this mistake very often. They say EN-UK and UK is Ukraine. Oh. So that means they're saying, hey, Google, look, we have this page. This is for English speakers in the UK and in Ukraine, right? And they say, hey, my brand is not performing good in the UK, right? You know the reason. And I think I would say there are thousands of, smaller brands you will look at who are doing it wrong, right? But I think the biggest one I recently seen was Stripe. So they also have had wrongly implemented hreflang tags. They had some different code, which was not even country code. They had ABC, or I don't know what it was, but it was completely wrongly implemented. And yeah, that was the biggest example I saw where they kind of messed up with how it should have been implemented.
So basically, if you follow the ISO codes, then you shouldn't have any problems, right?
Yeah, exactly. ISO code is more than enough.
Where I would personally go to, but definitely know enough about this stuff to know that it can make or break your business.
No, it can for sure.
All right, so hreflang tags are an important topic, but I wanted to talk about something that is happening right now in the world. So the AI, the emergence of AI, specifically ChatGPT, stuff like that. So how does that relate to scaling content for multilingual brands? Do you have any advice, or do you have any already thoughts, your personal experience? How have you used not only AI, specifically content generating apps, but do you have an AI that perhaps analyzes your code setup? I don't want to limit your answer to one specific AI. So there's something that brands can take advantage of to help them optimize the localization process and going international. We would love to hear about that.
Well, thank you for the flexibility that we're not only talking about, content AI, right? So AI is definitely a big topic. And I think here at Botpresso, we guys are also using AI every single day now for, breaking the surface and do something special, something, which gives us more power. About the content, right? You can definitely produce content using ChatGPT, or for that matter, there are many other AI solutions as well. So you can produce content. You can also translate content. The translation quality AI provides you is amazing as well. And yeah, you can do that. However, I would highly recommend involving a real human being in the process, because end of the day, they are machines. So you can't rely on machines to connect with your user. So you need that connect. You need someone who understands brand guidelines, who is able to train these machines from efficiency perspective, but able to finally proofread the content before it goes live on production and interacts with user. So you need that. Yeah, rely on machines for efficiency, but do not just rely on machines. You need to also involve some like someone who is basically connect with the users and give the best user experience possible. About other solutions, right? So I think you can do a lot with that. For example, one of my teammates, he's with zero engineering background, but he recently wrote a beautiful Python script, which, so we wanted to basically generate XML sitemap with href, sorry, right? So this multilingual XML sitemaps. So the first question was, he asked the client that, hey, can we have list of all the URLs? We want to generate XML sitemap. They said, yes, you can have it, but it will take 1 week's time. It's a massive brand. So things move a little slow there, right? He was like, no, I'm impatient, right? I don't have 1 week to wait for this data. So he wrote a Python script, which goes to the website, crawls the pages, right? And pulls all the alternate versions of the page. And then it basically create XML sitemap following multilingual XML sitemap from Google. It was fabulous. He probably spent 1 hour writing the Python script, but I think, yeah, the result was awesome. And the client said, we need 1 week for giving this data. And the same night, he was like, hey, we are ready with the XML sitemap. You just need to upload it now, and then we're done. They did it the same night, and I think the next day, all those alternate pages started to rank better for us. So yeah, I think there are multiple applications, and the scope is, I would say, not limited at all. You can do a lot with this. You just need to look at the problem, find patterns, and then ask ChatGPT, or other AI solutions to help you with the solution, and you have the solution with you. Yeah, so that's what we are doing. And I think there are like a lot of examples. I can also recommend, so we recently published an article about AI for SEO on botpresso.com. So you can go and check it out. We have some examples there. And I think that is our hub page. So we will keep adding more and more articles about AI applications for SEO there.
I actually saw a TED Talk from ChatGPT that was like 3 weeks ago, and they just showcased ChatGPT, and it was plugged into like Zapier, other systems. It just did amazing stuff, because I didn't even know, like a month ago, I didn't even know that you could make these apps talk to each other through ChatGPT, and it just sort of takes care of all your business as long as you know how to set it up. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that we can talk about how AI can be used for a lot of time. And we talked about already that it's the quality of it is really good, but you still have to get a human to look at it just to make sure that you're, like, especially with translations, like there's no way you can know unless like a native person sort of looks at it and understands the cultural stuff as well. Before we go off to the takeaway, can we talk about how do you see the role of AI continuing to help us develop multilingual content and grow internationally? Just like your thoughts, any of your thoughts that you have about how this could be further developed with regard to the development of AI.
Yeah, definitely. I think just before this recording, we had our weekly wrap-up meeting in the team as well. We were talking about AI, different applications of that. All of us in the team, they're using ChatGPT as their personal assistant now. Like whatever we do, right? We just basically go there and kind of validate. And I think it's really creative as well, right? So if you go and, I was talking about an example where last week I wanted to publish something on LinkedIn. I drafted my post, and then I just took that. I went to ChatGPT and asked it to give me a creative version of that, right? And I got an amazing creative version for that. I'm not a native speaker, so for me it was fantastic, right? Because my vocabulary is probably very limited, right? But the kind of response, the kind of outcome I got from ChatGPT was brilliant. So I totally use that. Like even like I've started a new webinar series this month. So for that, when I was working on, okay, what the agenda should be, what are the topics I should be covering, I did ChatGPT, but before that, I had already planned my topics. I got, out of 9, I got 2 new topics which I missed covering there. which is fantastic, right? So I think it's brilliant. I use it like every single day for, my regular activities now. And it is, I think, great time saving machine for me. And also from efficiency, from quality perspective as well, it is a great addition. So yeah, I love AI, and I think it's going in right direction. People who are working on stuff where there are patterns and they're not improving, yeah, they should be scared, because AI can definitely eat their jobs. But if you're smart and you're creative and you're thinking about strategy, you're thinking about how these machines can help you be a better value for your team, I think then you're totally safe. So yeah, you should think about that.
Yes, great. Thank you, Nitin. And I wanted to close off with like sort of like a soundbite answer, like your advice, like a final tip for brands that are listening on this podcast episode and who plan on going international very soon. What is your final piece of advice to them?
I think so. My final piece of advice would be international SEO is definitely not just translation of content, as we discussed in the episode as well, right? So you need to conduct a thorough market research to understand what people are looking for. You need to understand cultural differences. You need to localize your content. Now, not just translation, you need to think about localizing your content and experience. You need to localize your SEO strategy as well, right? You can't just go for football shoes, for example, in the UK. No, in the UK you can go, but in the US you cannot, right? So you have to choose the right web structure as well. Compare, what is important for you, what is not, what subdirectories work for you or not, right? You have to think about that. You have to answer that to yourself, and then decide on what is the best strategy for you. But these are the things that you need to answer on day zero, because you can't just build something and then after 6 months, okay, hey, this went wrong. We have to go back, to square one and redo this. Better you spend some time and energy right now, do a thorough research, and then decide on this. And then optimize for local search engines is another important thing, right? If you're sitting in China and only looking at Google for a search engine, you're doing the wrong thing. And then building partnerships with your local influencers or businesses is also important, right? Because they would also be able to help you with some, social proofing, some trust signals. So think about that. And then prioritizing your user experience across different languages and devices is very important, right? If you're going to a country where, there are more people who are using mobile than desktop, then you need to think about how your mobile website looks, how your mobile experience looks, right? You can't just think about one size fits all solution everywhere. And I think then to conclude this, I would say regularly monitor and adapt your international SEO efforts based on analytics and user feedback, and keep improving it and keep winning globally.
All right, Nitin, I want to close off by saying that today, Nitin Manchanda of Botpresso shared with us his expertise and thoughts on what it takes for brands to go international, as well as how to handle all of the entailing SEO processes. So thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here with us, Nitin. And I want to ask our listeners to be sure to subscribe and join the next episode of Do Follow Podcast.